She was married to God. Silence was her shield. Stone walls her prison. But one night, a scream shattered the convent darkness. By dawn, a newborn was gone, and a nun stood accused of a sin so terrible that even the king demanded answers. What happened inside that cloistered world? And why did church officials try so desperately to erase her story? This is the forbidden tale of the nun who broke her vows. The year is 14th century Italy. The church is not just powerful, it is everything. Kings kneel before bishops. Villages tremble at sermons about hellfire. A single accusation of sin can end a life. Behind high stone walls stand convents, places the world imagines as pure. Silent corridors, cold chapels lit by trembling candlelight. The scent of incense and damp stone. Women enter these walls as brides of Christ. They surrender their names, their families, their futures. Some come willingly. Others are placed there, unwanted daughters, inconvenient heirs, political burdens. Once inside, the rules are absolute. No touch, no desire, no secrets. But secrets were the only things that truly survived in convents. And one convent in particular would become the stage for a scandal so explosive that even Rome took notice. Her name was Bartolomea Riccoboni, and her story was never meant to leave those walls. Bartolomea entered the convent young. She was devout, educated, trusted. The convent of Santa Margherita in Venice prided itself on discipline. Daily prayers before dawn, fasting, confession, eyes lowered, voices hushed. But cloisters were not immune to human nature. Merchants visited, priests heard confessions, servants came and went, and behind veils and stone, loneliness festered. Historians later uncovered fragments, letters, testimonies, whispered confessions recorded during ecclesiastical investigations. They reveal something startling. Bartolomea fell in love. We do not know exactly when. We do not know exactly how. That is the first mystery. Was it a priest? A visiting layman? A nobleman with influence? Records are careful, too careful, almost as if someone tried to blur the details. But we do know this. She became pregnant, inside a cloistered convent, in an age when a woman could be executed for less. Imagine the terror, the swelling hidden beneath layers of wool, the nausea explained away as fasting weakness, the constant fear that another nun might notice. Every prayer now heavy with dread, every confession dangerous. And then, one night, the child came. Alone. In secret. No midwife. No mercy. But that wasn't the worst part. By morning, the baby was dead. The official account claimed the infant had been lost. But investigators were not convinced. Rumors spread through Venice like wildfire. A nun. A child. A cover-up. Church authorities launched an inquiry. Witnesses were questioned under oath. And torture was not uncommon in such investigations. What happened next shocked even the church. Bartolomea confessed. Not immediately, not easily, but eventually, she admitted the truth. She had hidden her pregnancy. She had given birth in secret. And in a moment of panic, of desperation, the child had died. Whether by neglect or by her own hands, the documents are hauntingly vague. Was it fear, shame, protection from scandal, or something darker? This is the second mystery. Because the church's records emphasize her sin, but barely mention the man involved. Why? Why was she the only one publicly shamed? Why does his name not survive? Historians try to bury this, but fragments remain, and they reveal more than the church intended. Convents in medieval Europe were not always sanctuaries. They were political spaces, economic institutions, sometimes prisons. Many women forced into convents had no choice. No dowry for marriage? Enter the convent. Family scandal? Enter the convent. Inheritance dispute? Enter the convent. Behind those walls, desire did not vanish. It smoldered. Other cases surfaced across Europe. In France. In England. In Italy. Illicit relationships between priests and nuns. Secret births. Infanticide. Silent burials. But Bartolomea's case was different. Because it became public. And public scandal threatened the church's authority. This wasn't just about one nun breaking her vows. It was about the illusion of purity. The church could not afford that illusion to crack. So they made an example of her. She was imprisoned, stripped of status, isolated. Her spiritual sisters turned away. Her family shamed. And the man? Protected by silence. What happened next is the third mystery. Because records suggest something unexpected. She was not executed. She was not burned. She lived. Why spare her? To understand that, you must understand Venice. Venice was wealthy, independent, politically complicated. The Republic often clashed with papal authority. Local elites sometimes shielded their own. Some historians believe Bartolomea may have had powerful connections. Others believe executing a nun for childbirth would raise uncomfortable questions about convent oversight. Either way, her punishment became controlled, quiet, managed, the scandal contained. But whispers do not die easily. For years, her name lingered in ecclesiastical documents. A cautionary tale, a warning to other nuns. Obedience, silence, purity, or else. Yet something remarkable survives. Bartolomea herself wrote. Her chronicle remains one of the few first-hand accounts from a medieval nun. In it, she describes spiritual struggles, doubts, fear, longing for divine closeness, but never openly details the scandal. It is as if she writes around it, as if trauma hides between the lines. Imagine living the rest of your life inside those same walls. Every bell toll a reminder. Every infant's cry in the city beyond the convent a ghost. Every prayer question. Did God forgive her? Did she forgive herself? Picture the night air thick with salt from the Venetian lagoon. The echo of water against stone foundations. Candles flickering in narrow corridors. Somewhere in that silence, a memory. A cry cut short. A heartbeat stopped. We often imagine medieval nuns as distant figures in paintings. Still, serene. But they were human. Young women. With bodies. With loneliness. With desires that doctrine could not erase. Bartolomea's tragedy exposes a truth the Church feared. Vows do not extinguish humanity. They conceal it. And sometimes, concealment becomes catastrophe. But here is the unsettling part. She was not alone. Records from across Europe reveal dozens of similar cases. Infants buried in convent gardens. Secret tunnels used for forbidden meetings. Priests exploiting authority. Power imbalances disguised as spiritual guidance. And yet, history rarely tells their names. Because institutions survive by controlling narratives. Centuries passed. The convent walls aged. Empires rose and fell. But her chronicle survived. Preserved in archives. Studied quietly by historians. Not as scandal, but as literature. As devotion. The woman once condemned became a respected religious writer. The sinner became a spiritual voice. And the child? No grave marker. No record of a name. Just silence. So here is the question that lingers. Was Bartolomea a criminal? A victim of repression? A woman crushed by impossible expectations? Or all three? And how many other voices were erased because their stories threatened power? History remembers kings. It remembers wars. But behind stone walls, in the shadows of incense and prayer, lived women whose secrets could shatter empires. This was the nun who broke her vows. And perhaps the greater sin was not her love, but the silence that followed. What do you think? Was she guilty, or was she trapped by a world that gave her no choice? Tell me below, because some stories were never meant to be told. And yet, here we are.